Welcome back, everybody, to more from the Sable Eyes. I'm here today with Blake. How's it going, Blake?
I'm doing good, thanks, Mitch.
That is good, and we're here for a critical matchup. And since we've got North American International Championships coming up soon, we figured that it would be a good time to take a look at what is going on in that particular format. And today we're focusing on two versions of Zoroark. Zoroark Dewgong, which is going to be piloted by Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
How's it going?
And you're, Blake, going to be piloting Zoroark Silvally.
Yep, that's correct. The same list I played from my top 4 finish at the Adelaide League Cup.
Was that the same League Cup where I won, Blake?
That was the very same.
The one where I won with Gardevoir, and it was great for everyone involved.
Both lists available up on the channel if you want to go look at those.
And whilst we're plugging the channel that you're currently watching, if you like the content, then please like, comment, subscribe, do all those good things. It makes me feel really nice and warm and fuzzy inside. But anyway, Jordan started playing, so I'll hand over to him because he's going to be talking us through what's going on his side of the field, which we're going to be able to see. And Blake, you're going to be able to keep everything secret. So good luck, everyone.
Yeah, I'm freaking out a little bit here because I literally just had a dead hand and top decked a Lily, so that worked out pretty well for me.
Oh, I'm hoping I'm about to top deck a Lily of my own then, because otherwise I feel like it's going to be very bad.
That's pretty
and it might play
unfortunate
out
for
a
you.
bit, and then it might play out a bit similarly to our top 4 match, which is also this very same matchup.
Yeah, we actually played in top 4 of the League Cup Mitch was just talking about, and I ended up victorious in that match, which was nice. I enjoyed winning that game.
And then I went on to beat you. It was great.
I didn't enjoy that, but it was a pretty close game, wasn't it, Mitch?
It was real tight.
Now I didn't top deck a Lily, but I top decked a Dena, and
Yep.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Certainly not a bad top deck.
I'm certainly not happy with the fact that I didn't top deck a Zoroark to go with it, but you know what? We'll just see how that goes.
Well,
There's
I
no way
guess-
you kill this type null in the active, so...
I guess that Ditto's going to have to act as a Zoroark then. I'm kind of
Yeah.
conflicted because usually I'm always just going to go for Dewgong on turn 2 against a Zoroark mirror, but you've only really got one Pokemon for me to knock out with Dewgong, and I can actually just knock you out with Zoroark and maybe even go for a Muck here. So there's a few things I can go for here. I think I'm just going to trade once and see what options it gives me, but I've got a pretty mean hand at the very least. I've just got options for everything. I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
Oh, alright.
I don't know what I'm going to do here.
I think
I need you to miss.
I have not missed anything. Just saying, I've got options to do pretty much whatever I want to. I think I'm going to Gooseberry at your Meowth. I'm going to Field Blow that memory off because it's scary. And I'm going to evolve to Muck.
Oh.
That sounds annoying. So I like all of those things. And the good thing about this play is that I can make this play with only 3 benched Pokemon, which means that Rebel GX, if you do find Silvally, won't knock me out. But I am a little bit prey to you just sacking into another fighting memory. Gotta hope that you don't find that. You do have the Silvally, so the fact that you didn't... Oh wait, it's got free retreat anyway, so it doesn't matter that you promoted the Dedenne.
That's correct.
Oh,
That's one of the benefits of running the Silvally variant, is that you can just promote anything as long as it's not evolved.
Yeah, usually when your opponent promotes the Dedenne, you're thinking, oh yeah, nice, they missed. They're just sacking the Dedenne, but no. Looks like I made the right play though by not benching things, taking away your option to knock me out with Rebel, but I don't really have a good way of knocking out this Silvally. I think I just have to 2-hit it and make things awkward for you. Usually I'd be able to go for Ace Roll with Lele this turn, but Muck is actually shutting me out of that play, which is a little unfortunate. So
Yeah, I'm just hoping that you can't trade into an Ace Roller with this play, otherwise I don't have very many other lines of play at the moment, just due to the fact that I'm drawing pretty poorly this game.
yeah, for sure. I don't think it's even worth me going for Ace Roller, even though it is ideally what I'd like to do. I don't think my chances of finding it are high enough to go for, so I'm just gonna play the Lily here and draw as many cards as I can, because I think I should be fine just to 2-hit and still be okay. You have to waste 2 triple colors just to knock out the Zoroark in theory. So yeah, we'll just go for the half hit. Seems fine. The really strong thing about my board is the fact that obviously you don't have any Zoroarks, so you don't have access to evolving that Ditto next turn, so best case scenario for you is, I guess, just finding Pokemon to bench and taking the knockout my Zoroark.
I've got to admit, I'm pretty furious right now because I just top decked a fighting memory when it doesn't matter.
Oh, you top deck the fighting memory now. That's hilarious. That would have been a much better last turn.
That's hilarious, says Jordan with absolutely no sympathy for Blake at all.
I mean, I'm not upset that he missed it.
How hilarious.
Alright. So, you've got a Meowth. That's a start.
Yeah, I feel like this is pretty annoying for you because leaving the Silvally up is an obvious threat, especially because I just openly bragged about possessing a fighting memory. Whether or not that's true is up to your discretion, but it makes for a pretty convincing story.
Well, regardless, I'm still going to be knocking out your Silvally this turn, in theory. And,
But the Persian is a new threat to try and get me out of this whole situation that I'm in right now.
certainly is threatening because you can catwalk for anything, but without access to a bench type null, I don't have anything too bad to worry about. I don't think you've got enough Pokemon in discard that you would ever be able to pull off a huge vengeance to knock out a Zoroark. So even though catwalk is scary, it's not like super intimidating to me right now.
Yeah.
I think my biggest concern right now is actually just missing the bench Pokemon I need to get the knockout. Right now I've got access to guaranteed 100 damage, but we'll have to draw one more basic Pokemon. But I do get to see at least 7 more cards off of a Lily for 5 in a trade. So first card we get a Zoroark. I'm not too upset about that. And did you knock out a GX last turn?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, why did you
did.
not just...
I did. I'm
I
sort
feel
of,
like
yeah.
I feel like I should have gotten Persian because I completely forgot.
You really should have got. You really should have gotten Persian.
That's alright. I drew Persian anyway. That worked out well.
That sounds like you.
Yep. Completely forgot that you knocked out a GX until I drew that. I'm like, nice.
Oh, I'm gonna play Persian.
Alright, I can get any 2 cards here. What do we want? There's a lot of good... There's nothing I really need right now, so I'll probably just grab a Zoroark, because that's a good card to grab. And I'll grab something
I think
for
it's overrated. I think.
Think Zoroark's overrated? I mean, you don't seem to be going too
I don't play
hard
him.
for it.
No, I don't play him.
This
Not
seems
even that
fine.
good. I'm not gonna miss it.
Alright. I think this is just going to come down to if you're holding Persian, then the game keeps going, and if you're not holding Persian, then it might just be over at this point, to be honest. I didn't realize I hadn't traded yet. That's kind of cool.
It's kind of sitting here like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to do. You know, 2 trades in a Persian to play with, and you're just like, I don't know. Like,
I'm gonna miss. Oh.
I only had 1 trade at first, and to be fair, I didn't even realize I hadn't used trade yet, because I'm not really doing my order of actions correctly here, am I? But that's fine. I've got the knockout. That's what really matters.
It's all worked out for the best.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Oh dear, it's an interesting matchup in the realities of Pokemon, in the sense that you'd think that early doors Jordan's deck with Dewgong would be more able to win the early game. Obviously, Dewgong can shut Zoroark out of the mid to late game by knocking out Zoroarks, and then if Blake were able to get himself a setup of some description, then he'd be able to pull it back in the late game with the ease of knockout on with Silvally GX, but it has unfortunately not happened here. But it'll be interesting to see in games 2/3 of this set whether or not that actually comes into play, because without Dewgong, Jordan could potentially be in a lot of trouble to a big Silvally play. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely weird in this game that neither of us have really gone for the ideal strategy you would usually expect to see. But the Dewgong, I think, is the biggest factor between these 2 decks, because as you already mentioned, the Silvally with Fighting Memory is really able to take prizes more efficiently than Zoroark can in the early game. Do you think, Blake, that the Dewgong is the card that swings matchup more than Silvally does, or do you think it just depends on who gets the better start?
I honestly think that coin flip decides whether or not Dewgong is effective in the mirror. Otherwise, Silvally is more effective no matter what the coin flip is.
Yeah, for sure. The coin flip is definitely a big part of the mirror match, and we've seen that with pretty much every Zoroark mirror match in history, realistically. The coin flip has always been such a huge factor. And this is no exception, of course, because if Zoroark Dewgong goes first and can just get a turn 2 Dual Blizzard off onto 2 Zoroarks, you're so far behind at that point that it's pretty ridiculous. But if Silvally goes first and gets the evolutions out, Dewgong isn't really that big a factor anymore.
Yeah, Silvally continues to be a threat throughout the whole game, whereas Dewgong peters off after basically as soon as Zoroark evolves.
Yeah, I think I've got the knockout on your Persian here, which is just kind of nice. I think that could be a pretty big factor. Because you're probably going to need to find a rescue stretcher to get that Persian back, and by looking in your discard pile, it seems like you've already used your one of rescue stretcher. Have I got enough Pokemon discard? What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I'm sure you're not going to be punished even if you're miscounted, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. 8, 160, 170, 200. That seems like enough. Gonna get some Guzmas back because I might need one of those at some point. Huh, that's funny. The only two supporters on my discard are Guzma and Lily. Alright, and may as well set my board up just a tiny bit more.
If you take a look at my discard pile, you'll notice that there's only one supporter in my discard pile, and it's a Guzma.
That's a little worse.
I literally have only played a single Guzma this game.
And you haven't been trading either, so...
Yep.
I would definitely say that I've got a better ball position here, but surprisingly, the price count is actually kind of close still. Like, if you did have access to another Persian,
Sorry. Oh, I feel like I've probably got a better board position. That's a points
Yeah, the nerve of this kid.
but still, like the game is kind of close. I mean, if you got a knockout on this Persian right now, which isn't realistically doable, but the muck being in discard means that you can evolve this Ditto and start applying pressure. If you were able to knock out this Persian, I could potentially be in a bit of trouble here. Is there any other plays that you can make besides just half hitting this Persian though with a Zoroark? Because at this point you just gotta hope that I don't find another triple colorless. And I've only used 2, so it's not impossible for me to hit it, but the jump is definitely...
No, I could have evolved into Silvally, but I mean, I couldn't attach the triple colors before judging, so...
Right. And of course, you've only got 1 triple colorless left, I think, so... that's pretty hard to ask for.
Yep, especially when I'm not also holding the... If I was holding Fighting Memory triple colors, then yeah, sure thing. I'll go straight for it and kill the Persian, but...
Alright, I'd forgotten that you'd already used Rebel, but I was able to draw the triple color, so that's going to be
I actually used Slashback, but
yeah, sorry, I meant the GX attack in general.
Yep.
Yep, that's well, that's what happens when one player gets Zoroark out and the other one doesn't. It's usually pretty one-sided, and that's why the Dewgong can be such a huge factor in this matchup.
Sometimes it's just the factor of you don't draw cards, and yeah.
So I imagine you're going to be wanting to go first in this matchup. What is Silvally looking to do turn 2, would you say, in this matchup?
Get basics. That's it.
Just get basics. You're not needing to dig
turn
for, like,
2.
Yeah.
Turn 2. I mean, like you have so many options because you can go for a Rebel or you can go for a Turbo Drive. Oh my goodness me.
Well, I don't have the best opening hand this game either, but depends on how bad yours are.
I'm sure you've got a better basic.
I mean, it's not a great basic, but I actually have 2 basics. It's Marshadow and the same as yours, Dene. So neither are great, but yours is obviously worse. Do you at least have like a Lily hand you can play around with?
Yeah, I have a Lily, which is
okay.
fun.
I would say your opening hand's probably better overall than mine then. I don't know, mine's kind of awkward. I've got one of those hands where it's like I can either Lily for a couple cards or kind of just judge and hope that I draw better off of it than you do, which is never really optimal when you're going second. Alright, I'm trying to think, what other key factors do you think there are in this matchup? Assuming that neither player gets like a super crucial turn 2 play, like for example if I miss the Dewgong play and you don't get like a turn 2 Silvally, do you think it comes down to Ace Roller Wars and who goes first, or do you think that it's a little more complicated?
I think the thing about this mirror, the way this matchup goes, is that Silvally takes out the Asroller mirror part of this mirror, which usually is usually what it comes down to. But when I'm taking one shots, you're entirely reliant upon Persian, and so I've basically just got to try and restrict how much value you can get out of Persian in whatever way I can, whether it's if you prematurely evolve it, if I can Guzma kill it, or if I just have to target down Meowths. rather than potentially just killing Zoroarks, whatever seems like is more likely.
Yeah, it's
It's all about keeping track of what's in your opponent's discard these days, because you're keeping out for how quickly, if it's reasonable for them to get a good vengeance target or not.
The Silvally is basically just a Persian that doesn't require all of the Pokemon in the discard pile, instead just requires a single tool, so it's a lot easier to predict how much damage a Persian is going to do, whereas Silvally can kind of just come out of nowhere and say, here's a one-hit KO with Rebel, or just a Turbo Blaze, or whatever it's called, for 240 damage. Turbo Drive, I think. I think I was mixing it up with Reshizard for a second there.
Yeah.
And the other good thing is, obviously the Dedenne opening from you, or neither of our openings were great, but when you're playing Silvally, opening the bad Pokemon isn't such a big deal when you can just evolve turn 2 with free retreat and get into your attacker right away. And yep, seems like that's exactly what we're going to see from Blake. He's going to get a turn 2 Turbo Drive, and I don't really have an easy response to this, so I either have to just hope he misses the tool that he needs, which is kind of rough, or...
I almost misplayed and evolved the type no and leaving you the option to muck me out of a use basic this game, but I checked myself right at the end, even though it was a bit awkward. I did ideally want that to be a Zoroark, but I didn't have the Zoroark available. I had a really awkward hand.
Yeah,
I had the option.
It's another pretty big factor where one player can kind of assess their opponent's board and decide if it's worth going for Muck. I actually did trade into Muck there, so he ended up going for the right play. It's kind of weird because I need to bench Pokemon for damage, but I can't bench too many, otherwise I give you the option to Rebel GX next turn for knockout. I really need to just force you to find that fighting memory, because I think that's what this matchup really comes down to is...
do I find it or not?
Yeah, do you find it or not? And if I make it easy for you and allow you to save it for later, then it's really easy for me to fall behind. So
yeah.
I think I'm just going to stick at 3 for 2 reasons. Number one, that's the perfect number for you to miss the knockout. If I had a 4th, you could get a Choice Band or a Kukui to knock me out. And also, I don't have any other Pokemon, so I'm just going to have to stick with 3 here.
Yep.
What is good for me is that you, as you mentioned already, evolving the Ditto is awkward for you because you've only got access to one Zoroark now, so your card draw is going to be a little rougher than mine, especially since you don't have a Meowth down currently, so you're also going to be struggling a bit to get chain attackers, because Catwalk isn't quite as free for you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely really awkward. I had this like weird 5-card hand where Lilying was the same as a Kukui. It was one less than I could only draw 1 card off the Lily because I was holding 6. Kukui draw 2, and I only found 1 Pokemon. So I had only found the Ultra Ball, so I had to choose one, and obviously the Silvally gave me free retreat into the Silvally to start taking knockouts, so that was the option.
Yeah, an interesting thing to think about in this position where you have the half-hit Silvally in the active with the double colorless. Is it better to go dig hard and try and get this knockout, or would you ever consider retreating into Zoroark and just going for the 2-hit KO and trying to preserve that Silvally for when you know you've got the access to the 1-hit KO?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I want to preserve it, but like the way I drew the most cards was attaching the triple colorless beforehand, and I was looking at 7 cards with Lily and 1 trade, so I thought my chances were pretty good. But I've whiffed it here, so it looks like it's just going to be a half hit.
And the half hit's still fine. I mean, obviously it puts pressure on, and it's the same amount of damage that would be on me, if not more, than if you'd actually attacked with Zoroark. But it does give me the out to knock out the Silvally, which is the much bigger threat here. All I need to do is fill my benching, find myself a Choice Band or a Kukui. Probably going to be a Choice Band, because I don't have a Kukui in my hand right now. But it's certainly not undoable. I think I'm probably better off just going for the Dedenne to give myself the best odds here of hitting it.
And usually, like, I'm not too fussed. The only time I'm really fussed about losing Silvally if it's like my only out to one. But
Well,
obviously, I have the type null down, so I'm not too fussed about having one go down, because at the end of the day, you're still most likely going to have to go through 2 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not in too bad of a ball position here, even if I do get this knockout. One thing that's interesting is in this game, both of us have put down Dedenne GX. Do you feel like that's a bit of like? Do you think that's a big liability in this matchup, or do you think it's kind of just?
Not for specifically this mirror. I don't find that at all because by the time Persian becomes a factor, the Zoroarks and the Silvalleys and the other Persians are also just as big a liability, just because of how high it can go. And Zoroark can't pick off Dedenne because it's got the 160, so I don't think it's ever really a threat or like a weakness to have on your bench, really, in the mirror specifically.
I think it's actually a bigger weakness for you than it is for me, because for me, I'm more likely to be using that Slashback GX attack. And Slashback GX can knock out a Dedenne, but it can't knock out Zoroarks and Silvally. So having that Dedenne in play does give me that out to getting a Slashback GX knockout. Obviously, you can Slashback with a Persian onto another Persian, but you're not attacking with Persian as often as I'm going to be in theory.
Yeah.
Alright, I've got Acer, which means I'm going to have access to one more trade here, but it's starting to look like I'm probably not going to be getting the knockout. I might be 10 short here. Just trying to think if it's worth doing anything else. I think I'm probably just better off.
And you've also committed the attachment for turn, which means you can't go for something like a Slashback this turn either.
I haven't actually committed the attachment for turn, but...
Oh, you haven't?
No,
oh, okay.
But I have to evolve into Zoroark here anyway, so... I don't have access to triple colourless, so that wouldn't be an option for me anyway with this specific hand. I suppose we just see if I can find a choice band, and we don't get one. That's alright though. I'm not super far behind, and I can set up for a Dual Blizzard knockout later on in the game. So, not the worst thing in the world.
I'm pretty happy that you've missed here, obviously, because in your attempt to go for the knockout, you've also benched out, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, if I randomly trade into, I suppose it'd have to be pretty nice. It'd have to be Astrala and triple colorless.
Well, it's certainly possible. What is good for you is that you've actually got the Mew in play now, so with my Muck line in the discard pile already, it's going to be really hard for me to capitalize on Dual Blizzards, whereas usually the Dual Blizzard could probably get me 3 prizes and get me right back into this game next turn.
Yeah, and because you've already evolved the Ditto into the Zoroark, you can't just instantly threaten the Alola Muck either.
Yeah, so possibly would have been a little bit better for me to play a bit more conservatively there and not evolve the Ditto, keep my option for Muck alive next turn. But I feel like if I'm kind of in a bad spot if I don't get that knockout regardless, so it's worth seeing those extra 2 cards to try and get that choice band.
Alrighty. Feeling in a much better position this game, for obvious reasons, but
yeah, being 3 prizes up in the mirror certainly helps. I do have a cool play here where I can take a knockout with a non-GX, but it's not really that big a deal because you're already on odd prizes. So
yeah, I'm already on odd prizes. Plus, like at this stage in the game, you don't really mind losing a GX because then you can activate Catwalk. So I'm honestly not too unhappy to see Dewgong be the option you go for here.
Yeah, I am happy that you don't have any access to Meowth in play, so what I'm thinking is if I can go for a Judge in the near future, you might struggle with only one Zoroark down to come back. But
exactly.
I don't think it's going to be too big a deal for you. I basically just have to knock out the Silvally, Judge you this turn maybe, and then hope that I can just Guzma kill that Silvally next turn. I'm asking for a lot here.
Yep.
I think I'm just going to trade and see what happens. If I can find myself into a Judge, it might be worth going for it this turn before you can get a second Zoroark into play. So it looks like I'll be able to go for that.
Well, even funnier still is that you don't even have to commit the Dewgong down because Seal just does enough on its own with Horn Attack.
That is very much correct, and that's what I'm going to be going for. I do actually have a Lele prize, as long as it's in discard already. I forgot to check that out, actually. Oh, it is in discard already. That's fine. I won't be going for that anyway, then. I guess I can get rid of this dead Slowking out of my deck. May as well trade that away and see if we can manually draw into Judge. I don't really need it this turn. It's just nice to get it this turn. But certainly not strictly necessary to find. Oh, there's the choice band for last turn. That would have been quite nice.
I'm very confused as to... it must be prized, but I'm very confused as to why you wouldn't have just comms for the Persian and then got that off of the Judge off of Catwalk.
Well, I've got Rescue Stretcher for Lele anyway, so it was already in hand.
Okay.
So I already have access to Judge. It's just whether I was going to be able to save the Rescue Stretcher or not was the main deal, because Stretcher is a pretty valuable resource in this matchup, I feel.
Most assuredly. It's something that I always wish I had, that I could find a space for an extra copy of in this list.
Another big difference between these two lists, obviously, is the fact that Silvally is running the memories, while Dewgong has extra space to fit in cards like that second Stretcher. And all of a sudden, that gives you quite a few stronger plays to play around with when you've got those extra counts of cards. Like I've got 3 choice bands, whereas you're only able to play 1.
Yep.
You did knock out a GX last turn, so I'm kind of tempted to play the Persian, even though if you Guzma kill it, it's pretty bad. But at this point, if you Guzma kill the Meowth, I'm probably screwed anyway. May as well take advantage of Catwalk while I can.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you wouldn't have evolved it there, because otherwise I had a chance to get the Guzma kill on the Meowth, but now it's going to be a lot harder to try and find that, because now, yeah, I'm just going to have to find everything.
It's still possible for you to get the knockout, and if
Oh,
you can,
absolutely.
then it's pretty scary, but as we mentioned, without access to Catwalk on your side, it's going to be quite a bit harder to find the cards you need, especially after a Judge.
That's for certain.
If you are unable to get the Guzma, do you think it's worth just hitting into Dewgong with Zoroark, or do you think it's better to maybe save your energy or go for a different play with Mew maybe setting up for prizes later on?
Well, my debate is what I'm going to have to choose here is whether or not I boldly go and do my trades first, or if I draw the most cards to just guarantee that I take a knockout and go down to 2 prizes here. And I'm kind of leaning towards just making sure I go down to 2 prizes. But the only problem here is that I do need to make sure that I find a backup type null, otherwise I'm subject to a Guzma Vengeance on my last remaining Silvally GX.
Yeah, I think it doesn't really matter what Pokemon you knock out, as long as you knock out a Pokemon this turn, regardless of whether it's on a GX or a GX, and then set yourself up to be able to take 2 more next turn, you're going to be fine in the long run. You've got the 2 Zoroarks in play, so it should be pretty easy for you to find cards if you need it. Quick question, do you think it would be better for you to go for a type null or a Meowth, knowing that Meowth could potentially get you into a Vengeance for game? You do only have 2 Pokemon in discard pile though, so you would need to put quite a lot of work into that play this turn, but it does give you access to Catwalk, which you might end up needing.
Yeah, obviously it's pretty tricky because I haven't had the option to ditch very many Pokemon this game. I suppose it just comes down to what I can find, what's easier to get.
Well, you've got to assume that if I do anything next turn, I'm probably going to be taking out a GX. So you'll be having 2 more Pokemon in the discard by the start of your turn. So all of a sudden, having 5 in the discard to start your turn isn't looking too bad. Like, Vengeance definitely seems doable if you were to go for the Meowth over the type null. It's really weird because the type null obviously means that you don't need as many cards, but the Meowth allows you to find the extra cards that you do need. So it really is much of a muchness as to which one's better here.
It's also because I've only the triple colors are the only thing I've really committed. I only need like the fighting memories are still all in deck, and so is the Rescue Stretcher to get back a Silvally if you do manage to kill it. But I've found out here that it's just simply not an option because that type null is prize. So Meowth is going to be what
there goes that debate then.
It makes up my mind for me.
Yeah, you do know that last turn I did use Catwalk at the end of my turn, so the 2 cards that I searched for are still in my hands. So you've got to assume that they're probably going to be cards that are going to help me take out that Silvally.
Yeah, well, I kind of figured that for you to win this game, you have to do something about that Silvally, otherwise it just threatens the rest of your game plan.
I certainly do. So that the knockout on the Dewgong, it does put you on 2 prizes, but it does also increase my Vengeance damage output. I'm now up to 8 Pokemon in discard, which is going to make it pretty easy for me to get the knockout. I can just trade away this little Zoroark, and that will put me at the full 9. So I'm now at full power Vengeance.
If there's one thing that does make me happy is that I know because you've it was already in discard and then you had to power pad it to reuse it once, so I'm not going to get judged again.
Oh, that's
So I know that I'm going to keep the current hand that I have.
It's very funny
Whilst
you
I'm
say that because that's actually not true. I am actually going to be removing that hand you've got this turn because I have one Pokemon left in my deck, and it is a Let Loose Marshadow.
Oh, I didn't even realize that you played the Let Loose Marshadow. So there we go.
Well, now you know, and it's a pretty exciting time to be playing Let Loose. Oh, I do have a couple other Pokemon in my deck actually, but they're so useless to me that I completely block them out of my mind. So may as well take advantage of that empty bench space and go for the Let Loose. I'm pretty low on cards here, but I think that the cards I have in deck are the ones that I'm hopefully going to need to close out the game, so not too worried about that. I've got access to drawing all the cards next turn if I need to, so no need to trade anymore. I'm going to just go straight for the Vengeance for knockout, and it's going to be up to you to kind of get this return. Maybe that Dedenne and Lele on my bench is going to be what ends up being my downfall.
I think it might be because I've found Ball Search, and I still have trades here. I'm just gonna make sure that I'm not a fool here. I'm gonna do my trades first, make sure I get rid of Pokemon where I can find them, and
well, yeah, if you've got the Persian in deck, then you should be able to find the Guzma and the Triple Color Sanji, and all you really need to make sure is you've got enough Pokemon in discard, and you've got quite a few, so I think that it's going to be enough. If there's another couple, that's definitely going to do it. I think that we're going to be moving on to a Game 3.
Yep, I don't even have to catwalk here. I traded into the Choice Band and the Triple Colorless, and I was already holding the Guzma, so I can just grab this here.
How exciting. And it's funny, we were literally just talking earlier in this game is about the fact that Dedenne GX possibly isn't that big a liability in the mirror, and that if it was going to be a liability, it would be more likely to be yours, but you're proving that wrong right now with the Vengeance for knockout on my Dedenne.
Well, as we just saw there, I did do 200 damage, so I simply could have just retreated in that scenario and then taken the knockout on the Persian, so it didn't end up mattering whether or not I had the Guzma for the Dedenne, so...
Well, that's true, but it's much more exciting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so I'm going to be getting to go first in this final game. And that's a pretty big deal because I'm the Dewgong player, so we could be seeing a very one-sided game if I'm able to get everything that I want.
Yep. The way this usually goes is I'm in a desperate hurry to find Mew, and Jordan's in a very desperate situation to find both access to Dewgong and Alola to shut off my Mew should I be able to get it out.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of cards that both of us need to hit. You obviously need to get as many Zoroas and type Nulls and Meowth down, so just in case I do get it, you're able to salvage it a little bit and keep at least a few Pokemon alive that you need. It's really bad, obviously, but at least you can kind of come back from it.
If there's one thing I think this list benefits from is that type Null is quite a big basic, so you don't have to worry about Dewgongs, and because this deck can take knockouts on Zoroark as early as turn 2 without fear of being sniped by a Dewgong, it certainly does put a little bit more fear into the enemy Zoroark player, that even if they have this beautiful turn where they get the Alola and they kill 2 Zoroas with a snipe, or even the Mew having a Alola down, that they still get revenge killed by a Silvally GX. And because they can't kill it.
And that's exactly why this Silvally version is so strong, because even if a Dewgong player draws perfectly, there's still a chance you can just draw the cards you need naturally. You don't always need trade if you just have the perfect hand already. And that actually asks an interesting question, and hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate it here, but I'm not feeling too confident. If the Dewgong player does get off that perfect turn 2 attack and, say, knocks out 2 Zoroas, but the responding player is able to get a turn 2 Silvally and start sweeping, who do you think is actually in a better position?
Well, I suppose it depends if in the process they can get down at least 1 Zoroa. If they can get down at least 1 Zoroa and threaten more with like a Meowth in tow, then I can see it being much stronger for the Silvally player. But it's very close.
I would be leaning more towards the Dewgong player being favoured, not only because they just took the first 2 prizes, but also because if the Silvally player then knocks out the Dewgong, they're only on odd prizes, and it's kind of awkward for the rest of the game. and if you're able to Guzma kill a Zoroark instead of killing the Dewgong, then the Dewgong's still alive, it's going to be able to take a few more prizes.
Yeah, that is true. I do have kind of the perfect hands to try and make sure I have as many threats as possible for you to try and prevent here. So...
That's certainly pretty good, and a really important card that I actually missed on that turn is just an energy, to be honest. A playable energy to put on my Zoroark, because...
Just to guarantee the retreat into the Dewgong for next turn.
Yeah, without the retreat, if I'm able to pull off a Dewgong next turn, it's actually going to have to be with a Guzma. And that means I basically have to have the perfect hand right now to pull that off. And spoiler alert, I don't think I'm holding the perfect hand to pull it off. I'm kind of close, like, if I top decked the perfect card, I'd only be one card away.
Yep.
So that's pretty exciting. What is good though is if you don't have any more Pokemon to put down, even if I miss the Dewgong and just kill your active Zoroark with a Zoroark, you still don't have any Zoroarks, and that's bad.
Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. I was trying to build a board which was immune to a Alola Muck, because you're probably still going to want to grab that anyway. I was hoping that I could grab the Mew and then from a Lily 8 just find one way to search out just an extra Zoroark, put on that pressure, but all I've found is a little Alolan Grimer here, and so I've got no Pokecoms to send him back for something more useful, so that's just going to have to end the turn there, and so you're going to be able to punish that.
Pretty unlucky off of a Lily to 8 to miss any kind of useful basic Pokemon.
I did go through a lot in my opening hands. I did go through 2 Nest Ball, 2 Ultra, and a Poke Communications in my opening hand, so it's understandable that I wasn't able to find any, but from 8 cards I was hoping to find, well, maybe just the Zoro itself as well, which was another option.
Yeah, it's certainly a few things you could have drawn there. Nest Ball, obviously the one that would have been the most ideal, but you've got the you've got the Type Null on the bench with a double Colossus on it, so I'm going to take the Zoro out, and like game 1, you're going to be left without Zoroarks for a while, but that might not matter if you just get a turn 2 knockout on my Zoroark with Silvally. Unfortunately, I have to waste the triple Colossus there, because that is a very important resource in the mirror match. It's probably among the most important resources, in fact, in this mirror. And there are quite a few important resources. It's not too bad though, because I feel like you only really use 2 or 3, and it's more about having them at the right time, which is why it's important to have 4. So I'm not too upset about having to do that. Double Colors would have been nice. I've got access to the Mock now, but I wonder if it's even worth going for, or just leaving that Ditto active to be a Meowth, because I think Meowth is probably the Pokemon I'm more likely to need next turn, even though the Mock is going to be good eventually. So I think I'm just going to leave it as is, take Knockout and Zoroark, and see if you're able to respond.
Yeah, I'm pretty glad that you had to bench forward to achieve the board state that you have, because now I don't need the fighting memory. I just need to attach, say, like another double colorless energy, and Kukui, but it's a bit of a risk here because I don't have the Silvally yet. But I think I kind of have to go for it.
Yeah, if you miss Silvally here, it's pretty ugly. And honestly, if you miss Zoroark, it's also pretty ugly. I feel like you kind of need those exact 2 cards. Oh no, have you done it? I'm really scared right now. I feel like you've missed.
I've missed the Type Null, but to be honest, I think doing 90 is actually like kind of okay here, but
certainly not bad. The scarier part is the fact that you're losing 2 double Colossus energy this turn.
Yeah, that's true.
Now,
I've still got 6 energy left in the deck, but
it's really weird though, because as tempting as it is to knock out this Type Null and remove 2 energy,
it is my only Zoroark.
I kind of just want to use Dewgong still. I kind of just want to use Dual Blizzard and take out, say, the Zoroark and maybe half hit this Type Null, or even take just 2 prizes and kill the Mew, because I have access to Guzma plus Dewgong and Mach, so I'm going to trade a couple times. I think if I get Acerola, I'll almost definitely make this play. But if I don't, I'll have to think about it. Oh, there's the DCU now, which would have been nice last turn, but not that big a deal.
I think you've got a lot less things to be worried about than just having to attach that energy.
Yeah, it's certainly not too bad right now. Alright, so I think I'm gonna have to just target down that Zoroark, knowing that your hand is pretty bad. As tempting as it is to take out these 2 DCs, it's really, it really does make a huge difference when you see one player trading and the other one's not. And we saw that in Game 1, and I think we're gonna see it in Game 3 as well. Because, yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be yeah.
And the
pretty
other
bad.
cute thing here is that because you were forced to put the Grimer down, I'm actually going to be able to kind of trap that active with this Guzma. And without trades, it's going to be even harder for you to get that out of the active.
I mean, I'm not too fussed, but that's not too big a deal. In a regular Zoro build, it would be really bad, but in Silvally, you don't really have to find the retreat cost. You just sort of have to find the Silvally. So I'm not too fussed about that.
Well, that's true. If you do find the Silvally, it'll eventually work out for you. But that's what you missed last turn. I have a feeling you don't have it in your hand unless you top deck it. So
Yep.
Waiting for Dewgong to eventually allow me to select 2.
Yeah, I thought that might have been just me, but it looks like it takes forever for everyone to try and use Dual Blizzard. I'm not sure if it's the interaction between Dual Blizzard and Triple Colorless that makes it have a heart attack, but it certainly does take a long
time. That this Dual Blizzard is taking. What is going on?
This is a new one for me. I've never seen a Dual Blizzard take quite this long before. I can't even remember if I've selected the Pokemon I'm taking a knockout on yet.
No.
I think I have. I haven't?
I don't know.
I certainly selected it in my mind. I'm going to be knocking out the Mew and the Zoroark, but it's really thinking about it right now. It doesn't know what to do.
I'm concerned a little bit that perhaps you guys' internet is going poorly over there, but I know myself that I've had Dual Blizzard.
There we go.
We did it.
Dual Blizzard has taken a long time
so
before.
I'm gonna go back and watch that video and see just how long that took for the energy to come.
It was
up.
a good.
That
It was a
was
good 30
preposterous.
seconds.
Oh, it was longer than 30 seconds, man. That was I reckon that was at least a minute.
It felt like a minute.
I'll put it in the description. I'll say, if you want to watch 16 minutes of us waiting for Dual Blizzard to activate, then feel free.
That was pretty impressive. I'm genuinely surprised and impressed with how long that took.
Just don't use that attack again.
I kind of want to use that attack again. It's a pretty good attack. Alright, there's 3 double colors on your board. I have a feeling that even if you do eventually get Zoroark into play, that you're probably not going to be attacking with it too often. And there goes your Zoroark. You're like, yep, I've given up on this. I just need my Silvally. This is the boy that I need this game. And I don't really have a real great response to it.
That's the great part about Silvally is that unless it's the very end of the game, usually you don't.
At this point, I'm wondering, can I get away with just not knocking the Silvally out? I can potentially find a Guzma this turn, and then maybe take out that Zoroark, because I love taking Zoroark out. And then in the future...
I think you should leave it alone. I think you've done enough. I think...
I don't know, it's going to be pretty hard to find Guzma, but hey, if I find it, you better believe that Zoroark was in trouble.
Considering there are 2 in the bin, there must only be at least one at the very least.
Yeah, I believe there's only the 1 left in deck, so... Wasn't super
And Layla
expecting
is
to get
down, and Powpat is in the bin, so I'm really hoping that you don't find it. I'll be very upset.
Yeah, I didn't find it. You're okay.
Okay.
All
Looks like that last Zoroark in my hand is finally going to have a time to shine.
Oh, you've got a Zoroark in your hand? That's disappointing.
Oh yes, I was very happy.
So I've got the option here of benching another Pokemon. I would like to bench another Meowth so that I've got access to Persian regardless of what happens next turn. But that does mean that you don't need to find any cards to take knock out my active Zoroark, so I'm kind of want to just hit you for 100 damage with Rider Speeding and force you to find at least a few more cards, or even if it's just 1 more card to take the knockout. I think that's worthwhile. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But if you do choose to Guzma kill the Meowth instead of knocking out my Zoroark, then I think that's a win for me already.
I think it's hilarious. I think if you were to watch, if you were a viewer, you had access to my side of the screen instead of Jordan's, I think you would be laughing right now, because what I've done is I've found the 4th copy of Double Colorless before I found a single copy of Triple. and I'm honestly at this point not sure what's going on.
That's very impressive. This game is... Maybe PTCGO is freaking out. It's just... It doesn't know what to do anymore. It's like, Dual Blizzard, can't handle this. I'm just going to give Blake all of it is double colorless, because I don't want to deal with triple colorless energy anymore. It's freaking me out. I don't know what to say. I've drawn basically the complete opposite. I think I've seen at least 3 or 4 of my triple colorless energy this game. And that was my... Yeah, I've seen all 4 of my triple colorless this game, so that gives you a bit of a hint as to what's in my hand. And only the 1 double colorless on the active is all I've seen this game.
I'm so torn here. I have. It's funny. You wouldn't think that with 1 trade I would have few options. I actually have so many options, and it's painful. It's painful how many options I have.
I'm guessing that means that you can knock out my Zoroark at the very least.
I could, but it'd be bad, because then you just respond, and then it's bad.
So what's a better option here? So you could kill the Meowth, which would kind of take away a lot of my options.
I wish killing the Meowth was one of the options. It isn't.
Oh, that's not one of the options. What other options do you have? I'm genuinely confused now, because I feel like those were the 2 main things you could do on this turn. I mean, I guess you can retreat the Silvally and attack with Zoroark, I guess, with your 4th DCE. That's like... Maybe you've got Acerola? Yeah, Acerola. That's the key card I was missing. Acerola seems pretty good here.
If I had a triple colorless here, I think I might have just won the game that turn if I...
You might have won the game. Oh my gosh.
It would have been such a strong tempo swing that it would have forced you to get every single card you needed for Persian and use that.
I mean,
and then I could have killed the Persian...
Yeah.
But then you would have had to use your Persian, and then I could then have the option to kill it in return. But this is much weaker, even though this is still an okay play.
Well, at the very least, you got your double colorless energy back, so you're not going to be in too much trouble with running out of those anymore.
I was never really concerned with it because, I mean, none of my Zoroarks are alive, so just the one has survived the culling, as I like to call it, and basically I'm just down to this, and I've just got a bunch of Zoroarks that are half hit and sort of clinging on to dear life, and no way for me to get a definitive edge in this prize trade just yet.
Sounds like you're having a bad time overall.
I am. I've got the board state, but just not the cards to follow through with it all.
Yeah, I think I'm actually 1 or 2 cards short of almost sealing this game up and getting a Persian to knock out this Zoroark in the active. Because if I can just get down to 1 prize, that means that my last Gizmo will eventually get me that last prize card in theory. Even though I don't have it in hand right now. With Catwalk, you assume that I'm eventually going to find access to it.
That's true.
Not the card I want this one. I want Meowth. Meowth seems good here because, as we've mentioned, you really need to make sure you've got 2 threats available at all times. If at any time you only have 1, your opponent can just Gooseprint out and take it out, and then you're going to really quickly get swept by whatever they're attacking with. 7, 140, 150, 180 I believe I'm capped at, so we're going to have to just... I think I'm just going to have to hit into your Zoroark with Rise Speeding, which is pretty inefficient, to be honest. It's like the worst thing I could do on this turn. But it's pretty much the only option this hand gives me, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So, giving you a bit of an opening here, you're still quite far behind in the prize trade. You're effectively a full turn behind, but you were 2 turns behind, and I feel like you're now only 1 turn behind, so... Certainly a decent exchange for you, even though it wasn't perfect. Would you... I mean, the fact that you've used Acerola now means that your ideal play isn't available. Would you consider just attacking with Zoroark and trying to save your triple colossus, or do you think it's ever worth going into a Silvally or a Persian preemptively just to keep your Zoroark alive? You could also go for Lele here, actually, which wouldn't be too bad, but Lele is almost as easy to knock out as Zoroark is.
Yeah, the thing is, I just don't want to use something that gets knocked out, but I probably just have to.
Well, the only things that aren't going to get knocked out is Persian and Silvally, but even though they might not get knocked out, those are the ones that you need to keep alive. So it's kind of awkward as to which attack you want to use here. I don't think there's any that's like super ideal, but it might be the Lele, because to be fair, I'm at the point now where I can probably knock out almost anything with Persian. Once you take out this Zoroark, I'll have 9 Pokemon in discard, so it won't be too hard for me to get a knockout on anything regardless. So if I'm gonna knock out your active anyway, then it may as well be Lele, I guess. Although right now you are only doing 80 damage with Lele, so you would need to redraw into a double colorless energy off that judge if you wanted to go for that play. So I'm guessing that's not what you're opting to go for. So you go.
Just very silently thinking to myself here.
Yeah, fair enough.
See, what have we got in here? Oh, 2 triple colorless energy. That's interesting. But
surprising.
I mean, if you find
you've actually drawn them now. I was holding on to the Persian last turn. I didn't want to play it down because I know that...
No, because that just provides a target, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, but I do, of course, have the risk now of missing it off of that judge. And I've currently missed it so far, but
and
I do still have
I've also take you down to 1 Zoroark as well this turn.
So this is going to be a pretty scary trade coming up, I'm going to be honest. I've actually got a pretty interesting hand off of the judge. If I'm not going to have Persian, these are probably some of the better cards to have that aren't Persian.
Well, that's frustrating, but you do have a thin deck.
I do. There's certainly a lot of cards that I can draw which are good here, but there's a lot of bad cards as well.
Certain things are starting to make a lot of sense to me now. Those prizes.
Ah, you've unprized a couple unprized a couple triple energy, have you?
I might have seen one.
Might have seen one. Alright, so I've got 1 Ultra Ball and 1 Persian in deck, so I'm actually not too likely to find it, but I do have a couple Pokemon Communications, but no Pokemon to actually use with it. So I'd have to get pretty lucky to pull off a Pokemon Communication off of this upcoming trade. Let's see what happens.
Especially since you just grabbed a Pokemon off of the trade, but I suppose you need to find that.
Well, I feel like I'm more likely to just draw an Ultra Ball than I am to draw anything else. So I didn't find the Persian, but I am just going to go for what my backup play was, and I'm actually just going to knock out your Zoroark with my own Zoroark. And this is weird because it obviously is going to give you Catwalk, it's going to allow you to go down to 1 prize, but I'm going with the logic that I'm going to need Persian next turn anyway, and if I'm forcing you to knock out my Zoroark, then I can just Catwalk for the guaranteed game next turn if I find access to Persian.
Yep.
So I think it's still my best bet to go for this play. The other thing I could have done is I could have Acerolled my Zoroark instead of Guzmaring, and kind of just waited a turn to try and get it next turn instead. But if I do that, I take away my access to Guzma, I take away any chance of drawing any prize cards that turn. And of course I keep you with a Zoroark, and I don't want you to have any Zoroarks. You only had 1, and I've been doing a pretty good job at stopping you from getting into play this game. May as well keep that trend up.
Alright, well, I don't like that card. That card can go.
I like that card. Don't make me lose that card. So what is the ideal Pokemon to knock me out with? I think it's just got to be Silvally, right? It's got the most HP and...
Yeah, I think I just want to take you out with the Silvally that doesn't have, like, obviously retreat this time onto the non-fighting memory one, and then I think I think you're down all of your Guzmas and your Power Pads, so I don't think you can target my bench, so it's just whether or not you can kill whatever's in the active.
Yeah, if I do find Persian, then I will have access to Choice Band and Triple Colorless Energy, so if I do get Persian, I'm going to be able to knock out whatever I want to, but you are correct in saying I have no way of accessing the bench, so if I don't get Persian, then there's no way I can get like a Guzma and a Zoroark for the game. That Grimer seems pretty safe.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was worried about to begin with. I'm just trying to think about what it is that I Catwalk for. I mean...
Because
I could Guzma kill the Meowth with the DCE and then remove Catwalk as an option to get your your triple colorless energy, and hopefully you don't find the energy to attack with the Persian, which is or your last modifier.
That's certainly an interesting play, and I quite like that. It does leave me with one guaranteed trade. I do, of course, have the Zoroark on the bench, so it's possible I could get a second trade as well. But
you would have 3 Zoroarks in the bin, and you're down your rescue stretcher, so you would have to find that, and I don't know whether or not your Zoroark could be your last prize, the 4th one, but I don't know what's better. Like, obviously, if you find Catwalk, it's just guaranteed, whereas Trade is just a chance off of 12 cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think the odds are fairly similar overall.
I mean, it's because that your energy is very limited as well, that I'd rather make you get everything off of a chance rather than one thing, like one thing off of a top deck, or like you could even be holding it now after your last turn.
Well, yeah, like with my current hand, I can tell you that if you do knock out my Zoroark GX, I will have to actually just top deck an out to draw or an out to Persian GX. But at the same time, I feel like having that that guaranteed top deck for game is pretty scary when if you kill the Meowth, I might need a couple cards. Not just the one card that I can top deck for game.
Yeah, so obviously you draw, if I leave you the Zoroark, you draw 3 cards instead of just 1, but it's a 1 in 12. Or rather, probably more likely a 2 in 12 for the last Ultra Ball or the Persian.
There is also, I think, at least 2 draw supports in the deck. I definitely saw at least 1 or 2 Lily, and I think there's 2 Lily left and maybe something else that can draw cards. I don't even remember what other supports this deck plays, but I don't think it's running a Cynthia right now. So I think I've got just the 2 Lilies in deck, which would draw.
I think at the very least, I'm just going to start by clicking Catwalk. I think that at least gets me in the headspace of what I should grab.
Yeah, may as well. I mean,
I grab that.
We're basically guaranteeing that right now you're going to win next turn if I don't win, so it's just whichever play you think gives me less chance of finding what I need.
And I gotta be honest, I feel like it's a 50-50, and whatever 50 I choose is wrong.
Well,
I feel like if I kill the Zoroark, you're gonna top deck the Persian, and I feel like if I kill the Meowth, you're just going to trade into Persian instead.
Yeah. I can't tell you which one's correct, because obviously I know the contents of my hand, and I honestly don't know which one's correct. He's made the retreat. It looks like he's made a decision. He's knocking out this active.
I'm just gonna kill the active, and I don't think I'm happy with it.
Well, it means the game is out of my hands, so I just need to draw a card that's pretty good. It needs to be an Ultra Ball, it needs to be a Persian, maybe a Lily, maybe a Zoroark. I think the Zoroark is actually prized, because I don't remember seeing it in deck, but hey, maybe I'll surprise myself. Let's see what happens. My turn, draw a card. It is a Dewgong. That is not a Persian. So, that's a bit of bad news for me. I've actually got Dedenne GX in hand, but my own muck is going to be preventing me from...
downfall.
Yeah. And it actually didn't really help me that much throughout the game. It did allow me to knock out Mew and Zoroark, though, so that's not too bad.
I feel like if it did nothing else but other than allow you to take those prizes, it also made one of my bench bots pointless, because I benched my own Alolan Grimer in the hopes that it would force your hands to evolve that into Muck, just so your Ditto wouldn't become pointless.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess my only wink on is that you for some reason didn't Catwalk for the card that you need to win this turn. And luckily you didn't do that, so the set's going to be going to Zoroark Silvally.
Yeah, I'm glad I went for that choice. I mean, unfortunately, unlike in IRL game, when you lose a game like that and you have a decision to make like that, you could just check the next 2 cards and see if killing the Meowth was the right choice or killing the Zoroark was. But I guess with the victory, I have to assume that the Zoroark was the right choice.
Yeah, we're never going to know that, unfortunately. But just real quick, Blake, what overall after playing this series, which deck do you think is favoured, and how much percentage-wise do you think it's favoured by?
I'd have to say that just because of how early Zoroark Silvally can threaten your opponent's board state, that Zoroark Silvally has to be favoured because once it gets past like turn 1, I think suddenly all of its threats threaten everything that that Zoroark Dewgong can potentially like offer in return. Otherwise, they just sort of have Persian to return with. Obviously, Persian's very good, and they can afford to have a thicker line of it and make it more consistent. And I think that's definitely the appeal, if nothing else, is that it's much more consistent than Silvally.
Yeah, I think
So,
I agree. I think Silvally does have a slight advantage.
That being considered, I don't think it's very much at all, because depending on the coin flip, Zoroark Dewgong can go first and get that turn and kill 2 Zoroas, and then the Zoroark Silvally player has to just draw very, very well without trade, and just play like that. Just play like a Silvally deck, basically.
The way I look at it is, whichever deck goes first is favoured, but if Zoroark Silvally wins the coin flip, it's probably more favoured than if Zoroark Dewgong wins the coin flip. But even then, it's basically the same regardless of either way.
Yeah, because if both win the coin flip, they both have to have very good hands to stop the other player from having their preventions like pay off for them.
I would agree.
So I would say that it's like I would almost go so far as to say that 55-45 does an injustice to Zoroark Dewgong. I think it's probably closer than that, like 52-48 or something like that. But it's much closer than 55-45, I would say. But
Yeah.
I would say it's ever so slightly favoured to Silvally.
And that's certainly what we saw in this best of 3 here.
Beautiful. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for playing that game. I know that it was exciting in the last game. I thought we saw a really, really good representation of what these two decks are all about. Thanks, Blake and Jordan, for coming along for this one.
No problem.
Not at all.
And thanks, everyone, for watching. I may have just cut off Blake there. I don't know.
I don't think you did.
It's hard. It's hard to tell. I can't see or hear. I'm blind and deaf. It's awful. Thanks, everyone, for watching. If you like the content, then please subscribe by hitting the sable line in the middle of the screen. On the left-hand side is a video that YouTube thinks that you might like, and on the right is our Unbroken Bonds playlist. Words are hard. I've not been speaking. But I'm going to leave it there before I embarrass myself further. Thanks, everyone, for coming along, and we'll see you all next time for more from Sable Eyes. Bye.
Bye.